Hello everyone, Colin Canet here for WoodWorkWeb. Today, in 5 minutes, we're going to show you everything about pocket hole joinery, and we're going to show you some tips and tricks that you may not be aware of. So for those of you who don't know what a pocket hole jig is, there's a few different versions. This is a Craig version, and I like this one, but there's many different ones to choose from. The reason I like this one is it has a built-in clamp. So the way it works simply is you put a piece of wood in here, you clamp it down, and then with a special drill bit, you can drill down into that wood, and it creates these little pocket holes. And this one has a variety of different places where you can put the drill bit into, and of course it's adjustable. This little center piece here moves up and down, so you can vary it depending on the thickness of wood that you're using. Some of these jigs, like this one, have 4 screw holes, and the idea is to keep this firm by screwing it onto the top of your bench. But I don't like to keep things on my bench. Sometimes they get in the way, so I've just made this little adapter. I can put it right in my bench vise and tighten it down, and that's all ready to go now. So let's just take a moment and show you how easy it is to make a pocket hole. So there's a scrap piece of wood that I have. You take it and clamp it into the jig. Then you take your drill. In this case I'm using a corded drill, and you drop it into one of the holes. And that's just how easy it is to make a pocket hole. Now let's have a look at a cutaway view of this. Here's a cutaway of what a pocket hole looks like. So there's how the drill comes in, and you can see how it's got this little elongated piece in here, and it goes in like that. Now the next thing that happens is a screw, and here's an example of a screw. So it would get driven down in, and for example, if we were going to mate these 2 pieces of wood together, the screw would go all the way through, and it would bottom out on this part down here, and it really works well. So it would tighten these 2 boards together very, very firmly. And that's what a pocket hole, that's how a pocket hole jig works. For drilling pocket holes, I found that a decent little corded drill works best. I do have a 12 volt. This is not really sufficient for doing pocket holes. It'll barely do them. And I understand a 14.4 is, for some people works, but I think if you're doing any amount and you want to use a cordless, you probably want to go to at least an 18 volt. Screws that are available, and obviously they come in different lengths depending on the thickness of wood that you're working with, and they also come, this is a coated one for use outdoors. So if you're making anything outside, this is a perfect screw because it's already coated. Now you'll also notice this one has a little bit different head, and it's also a fine thread. This one is recommended for hardwoods. But to be honest, I always use the coarse threads even for hardwood, and I've had very good luck using just the coarse threads. The heads of these will take both a Phillips and a Robertson, and they just fit in there like that for screwing. If you're getting into any kind of pocket hole joinery, you will want to get a long extended driver for your drill. Another nice feature with pocket holes is that you can purchase plugs for them, and I've got some contrasting wood so that you can see it a little bit better here. And the plugs are often a little bit oversized because depending on the hole you may need to trim that back a bit, which I haven't done here, but you get the idea that that would just slip right in there and cover that hole, and then you can actually finish that so that it hides the hole as well. do some of the things that you can do with pocket hole joinery. I've pre-drilled a bunch of some scrap woods to put together just so that you can see the kinds of things that you can do. When I'm working with pocket hole joinery, I like to use my little setup bench here. It's just a little portable piece of wood with some plywood on each side that's absolutely 90 degrees so that I know everything is square. So this is one of the pre-drilled ones that I did, and you can see how an elongated screwdriver is useful. Now this is just some oak that I've had, but what I wanted to show you here is just how strong. People complain that this isn't strong. I cannot tear that apart. It doesn't even move. That's how strong that is. Absolutely amazing strength. And here's an example of some 45-degree cuts. So if you were going to make picture frames, for example, you could use this kind of, and I've actually cut 2 holes in this one. You could probably do it with 1. And that's what that looks like. And even this, I don't even know if I can't even, this is pine, and I can't even pull that apart easily. So it is very, very strong. I should also show you that there's this clamping device which is available, and you might have noticed that this was a little bit twisted when I did it, but the purpose of this is to get this absolutely flat on each side, and because I'm just working with little scraps, it's easy to get it twisted. But this is another tool that if you're using pocket hole joinery would come in very handy, and you can see you can get an absolute perfect joint there just by using this clamping device and screwing in it that way. Another thing I've seen pocket hole joinery for is for joining glued edges together. So these edges were jointed, and if you wanted to glue these together, I've seen people use these as temporary clamps. They just put that in there like that, and of course you would have pre-glued these, and you can see that it does a great job of pulling those together. Now you may have these in here, so it's going to depend where you want to where this wood is going to be. If it's a tabletop, for example, you wouldn't care because this is all going to be underneath anyway. So a great way of clamping boards together, clamping and gluing. So do you want to make doors? What a perfect way of making doors. And they're strong. This is a great way you can put together, I've just thrown together some scrap pieces of wood here so that you can see you can make doors very simply out of this. Now so far everything I've shown you has been flush. All of the joints have been flush, all of the wood. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of an advanced feature that you can do still with pocket hole joinery. And in this case I'm going to use, this is again some scrap wood that I have, but imagine that this is a table leg and that we're going to put an apron like this on it. So the top of the table would be here, and this would be an apron going down to another leg down here. Now, usually with pocket hole joinery, we do this flush, but in this case, I want to make something called a reveal, and what that means is that the wood, instead of being flush, that the apron, instead of being flush with the leg, is going to be recessed back, and it will reveal a little bit of this leg. So let's have a close-up of what that'll look like. Where the top of the table would typically be, but I need this to stop rocking, so I'm just going to put that under there for now. And I have a piece of thin wood here, and that's all that is. So what I want to do is lay that down here, and of course I've pre-drilled this. And you can see now that when I put this in, this is elevating this just enough. And let's put a couple of screws in there and turn that over and have a look at what that looks like. So that's what that little reveal would look like. This would be the top of the table, and you can see how nice when you put a top on there, how nice that is when that comes together. And it just adds a little bit of detail rather than having this flush across. Well, that's our look at pocket hole joinery. It's a great system. It's not for everyone, and it's not for every project. So you have to kind of pick and choose where you can get the best use out of it. As usual, we ask you to follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. I'm Colin Cadet for WoodWorkWeb. Thanks for watching, and thank you for all of your comments.